The Dark Dyad. Prologue. Dinner in the Great Hall of Hogwarts was coming to an end. The students were full. They lazily sipped cold drinks. The older students were discussing the upcoming exams, and the younger ones were discussing their imminent departure home. The middle of June 1943 turned out to be quite hot, so a magical, rainy sky stretched under the ceiling of the Great Hall, which contrasted with the scorching sun outside the window. The raindrops of the enchanted ceiling did not reach the young wizards, dissolving into the air.
Enough.
From the Ravenclaw house table came scolding and grumbling.
All you do is whine all the time.
Olive, that's enough.
The squeaky voice of a girl of about 14 unpleasantly hurt the rumor.
I wonder if your muggle parents are always whining, just like you. Moaning Myrtle,
laughed Olive Hornby, straightening her dark blue tie, which beautifully set off her ashy hair, braided in a tight braid.
Olive,
squeaked the girl, whose eyes were wet.
Stupid, four-eyes girl. You obviously don't belong in our house. How did you even get in here?
Myrtle Warren, unable to endure another attack from her fellow student, burst into tears loudly. She jumped up from her seat and quickly left the Eagle House table. The hurried footsteps echoed down the hall and up the stairs to the second floor. The girl couldn't see where she was running because of the tears that were pouring down her cheeks. And those damn glasses. One of the reasons to tease Moaning Myrtle. That's how she was nicknamed, because of her excessive emotionality. No matter what the guys told her, she always took it personally. There was always another attack of tears and tantrums, sometimes completely unreasonable. However, it would pass fairly quickly, and life would go back to normal time after time.
Moaning Myrtle, of course.
She sobbed, opening the first door on the second floor.
That's how they're going to call me from now on.
Saying her nickname through her tears, she howled even harder. Wiping her wet cheeks with the palm of her hand, the third-year student looked around. It turned out to be a girl's bathroom, but completely abandoned. Inhaling hysterically, Myrtle ran into the first bathroom stall she came across. After sitting there for what seemed like an entire evening, she finally calmed down. Her eyes were swollen and her face was puffy. But that didn't matter, because she'd finally calmed down, and that meant that everything was okay. After an hour of tantrums, Myrtle was about to leave the bolt hole when the bathroom door creaked loudly. She froze involuntarily, listening to the approaching footsteps. What if that vile Olive had come here to drive the poor girl to tears again? The decision to wait in the weeds was made right away. The footsteps moved steadily toward the bathroom stalls, but suddenly fell silent, apparently somewhere near the sinks. Moaning Myrtle barely breathed, listening desperately for every echo. Her acute hearing clung to a quiet, calm voice, followed by the screech of a sliding mechanism. Unclear, who was it? Myrtle leaned against the door to grasp at least the slightest hint of the identity of the person present. Suddenly there was a second voice, a low, rough, disgusting one. It sent shivers down her spine. In response, the same calm voice sounded, but louder, and therefore more audible. It's a young man. Or rather two, and they are speaking in some incomprehensible language.
What the hell are boys doing in the girls' bathroom?
Myrtle was indignant, but only in her head. In fact, she hadn't made a sound at all.
That's all we need. Boys walking around in the girls' bathrooms. Which, by the way, are not only bathrooms, but sometimes a bolt hole from obnoxious fellow students, where you can safely hide and cry your eyes out.
Myrtle, determined to mock the incomprehensible, gibberish-like language and chase away the boys who had come into the girls' bathroom, confidently pushed the door open. Two huge yellow eyes with vertical pupils were the last thing 14-year-old Myrtle Warren saw in her life. Her breathless body collapsed on the cold tiled floor of the bathroom next to the black diary. A tall young man of about 16 slowly turned around. He looked gloomy, though he was very attractive. He took a disgusted look at the dead body lying on the floor and took a deep breath. Fucking mudblood. Then he turned toward the space of the room, where the huge white sinks had previously been. In that very place, right out of the floor, protruded the scaly, as if armored, body of a huge snake. Anyone who saw it would have been horrified. However, the young man was calm and, obviously, upset about one thing only, the corpse of the witness.
Basilisk, go back to the Chamber of Secrets. We must close it before someone comes here.
He hissed in an unusual language, and the serpent immediately obediently disappeared into the darkness of the pipe leading deep underground. As the Serpent King crawled away into the bowels of Hogwarts, the young student hissed in Parseltongue again, setting the mechanism in motion to conceal the monster's grim hideout. Then he leaned over the girl's body and ran his fingers across her forehead, which was still warm.
Silly girl.
The whisper of a human language still sounded as frightening as ever.
Everyone knows that the basilisk's gaze is deadly.
There was an ominous silence and the same tension in the air. The smell of death had never been so close before. That horrible stench suddenly hit his body, his mind. It passed through like black matter, causing panic. Could it really be like that? So suddenly, so sneakily, death jumps around the corner and stabs you right in the heart. You are alive and then you are dead. All of those thoughts gave goosebumps.
You just have to make a human sacrifice. Well, or several.
A painfully familiar voice, turning into a playful laughter, arose by its own in the echoes of memories. The defining moment. The young man picked up the dark diary, with the letters Tom Marvolo Riddle gleaming on the back, and squeezed it tightly in his left hand. Listening to the silence, he made sure no one was around. And it was unlikely that anyone would show up here. After all, this was an abandoned bathroom. A white magic wand moved from the inside pocket of his robe to his right hand. A light graceful wave of a magic wand. A quiet whisper of an ancient dark spell. The flawless face was suddenly distorted with hellish pain. Breaking bones, tearing into pieces, living flesh, it was nothing compared to the shredding of the most precious thing of all, the soul. Tom Riddle groaned hoarsely, falling to his knees in front of the dead girl. It seemed as if all the air in the abandoned room of the magical castle had simply disappeared. Disappeared, as once, when he lost something insanely precious that seemed to make him go crazy. The feeling now was nauseatingly similar. He clutched his stomach, dropping the diary to the floor. The soul tore in two with an anguished, mute cry, with pain filling everything inside him, bursting out in a gray cloud of smoke from his chest, and disappeared into a dark diary. Heavy breathing filled the space of the girl's bathroom. Tom Riddle slowly took the diary in his hands. He stood up cautiously. His legs became weak, they did not want to obey the owner. He left the bathroom on the second floor and walked slowly to the library. Away. He had never been here. A fellow student was walking toward Tom Riddle in the fourth-floor hallway.
My lord.
A young, tall student said and bowed his head, causing platinum hair to fall on his forehead.
Later, Abruxas.
Riddle replied coldly. He got a calm, barely noticeable bow. At the library window, in the farthest corner, there was a small table where no one ever dared sit, knowing that this place belonged to a Slytherin student, the prefect of Hogwarts. It was an unspoken rule, but every student observed it. Collapsing weakly into a chair, Tom furtively glanced around the library room. There were almost no students. He confidently opened his diary and levitated a jar of ink and a quill on the table. The long pale fingers trembled a little, but the handwriting was still elegant.
The 1st of June, 1938. Wednesday. This feeling started growing deep inside.